Our final presenter of the night is someone that I am excited about introducing because I have been trying to get him on the ACE podcast for 2 years, but this person is so busy painting all our coasters, and so I haven't wanted to take him away from his work too hard, but I am so happy he's here to talk to us tonight. If you've ever looked at a roller coaster and said, wow, that looks so beautiful, it was probably painted by Baynum Solutions, and so we are so excited. This is the founder of Baynum Solutions here with us tonight. Everybody give a warm ace welcome to Chris Baynum.
Well, good evening. What a pleasure, a privilege it is to be here with you folks, and I appreciate the invitation from ACE and from the Canfield family and Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk to be here. And I hope what I can take over the next few minutes is share part of my journey over the last 42 years in the painting business and how it came about. I'll show you some pictures that are amazing, exciting, iconic, challenging, and absolutely some embarrassing stories transparently to share with you. As everyone here has a story of why you love the amusement parks or a coaster or the amusement park industry, I have one as well. I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky. I still live there. My childhood park as a little child was Coney Island, which is defunct now, no longer there. As a little bit older in my teen years was Kings Island there in Cincinnati. My first date with my wife of 40 years in May was at Kings Island. And then we got married at Coney Island. So when I say that the amusement park industry is in my heart, it really is. And that's before any business came along at all. So get this little clicker thing going here. So there we go. That's my first touch with the amusement park thing. This was painting Sunlight pool at Coney Island in Cincinnati. And I was 23 years old at the time. I was a house painter. The last thing I wanted to do was be a painter. I was trying everything I could to get out of it, to get into sales. I just did not want to be involved in the painting industry. But when that picture was taken, I hung it on my wall, and a mentor of mine came by and just went on, man, you painted the world's largest pool. I'm like, oh, that's just Sunlight pool. It's just a bunch of paint on a pool. He goes, no, it's the #1 in the world. And it kind of stroked a young ego, and I thought about it. It was kind of cool. And that fall of 1985, the word got out that Kings Island was going to paint the Beast at Kings Island. And of course, that time still holds some of the records for the world's longest, fastest wooden roller coaster. Being my childhood park, or the park that I grew up in, I was excited about it. I went out and met with the folks at Kings Island. At this point, I had only painted houses and Sunlight pool. But I talked to the gentleman, an old German man named Jim McDermott, and convinced them that I had the means and the ability to do it. So with that picture, those are 4 of my high school buddies, a few of my high school buddies there, and an ad in the paper. I figured out I needed about 30 people to paint this coaster starting in the fall of '85 and finish it in the spring of '86. So I ran an ad in the paper, high pay for high heights. You meet me at the parking lot at Kings Island, and literally in the parking lot, did the interviews on spot. I paid everybody the same thing, $12 an hour. You get a belt and a paintbrush. And so we hired right on the spot. And I'm so happy to say that there's 3 of the guys that were hired that day and 40 years ago that still work with us today in the company. So we're really, really proud of that. So I'll flip through this real quick. So there I am in 1985 on the Beast project. Now I did what every young, wise person would do. I finished that project, made more money than I'd ever made in my entire life by 3 times, and I retired, went out and bought myself a sports car, and I was done. That's not an exaggerated story. That's truly what I thought in a young mind. I didn't have to work anymore. But fortunately, a few months went by, and reality set in, and I realized I had to take this opportunity and capitalize on it. So the following year, in 1986, we did our first major project away from Cincinnati. We got the invitation to come down to Kings Dominion in Virginia and paint their Eiffel Tower. We did it. Yeah. By chance, again, it was a success for us. I started learning a whole lot, getting experience. And just as a side note, so that's King's Dominions. Kings Island has one, as all you folks know. We have painted both of those towers 3 times over the last 36 years. So a total of 6 times we've painted the Eiffel Tower. And like anything else in life, experience pays off, doesn't it? So it's one of them projects we can pull up. The parks know it, we know it, and we hit the ground running, and that's the reason we've had the ability to paint those projects so many times. But through those years of experience, there's things that I'll share with you that were not so pleasant. Now this next shot, I've seen some folks from Houston over there. You might recall the Batman ride at Astroworld. So this was 1988. So I'm 5 years into business, still green, still learning. And my dear friend Steve Hickey, who was in that first photo of us at the pool, was my best friend. He's still my best friend today and still works with me today. But on a Sunday morning when I was home in Kentucky, Steve took it upon himself to do something. And now that I'm going to describe this to you, as you're going up the next time you go up a chain hill, look to your left or your right, and you'll see those steps going up the hill. And if you think from a painter's eye, every one of those cleats that you see on the steps has got about an inch and a half depth to it. So a painter, he's like, the time that would take me to jab all those little holes would take forever. It's a Sunday, there's no one around, I'll just spray them. Again, he's still my best friend. Monday morning, I get a phone call. This is before cell phones, this is before caller ID, and I answer my phone, and the gentleman says, "Is this Chris Baynum?" I said, "It is." He goes, "My name's Mike Calvert." I don't know if that name rings a bell to you folks from Houston, but I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I own Mike Calvert Toyota. We sit right next door to Astroworld." And I felt the blood rush out of my body. And I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "We have 300 cars, brand new cars, that I cannot move, I cannot sell, that are covered with overspray." So I jumped on a flight, went down. I still to this day have never talked to Mike Calvert again, never met him in person, but I met with his folks. We started trying to do a workout. It almost took me out because with the insurance industry, they have little loopholes, and one of them is if you overspray 10 cars, that's 10 different claims. And so I was looking at over $100,000 worth of overspray, and we were able to work out something with Mike Calvert Toyota and with our insurance company. So we made it through that, but that's 1988, and what a lesson learned. So still this day, with very few exceptions, when you see our projects, think about it being 4 to 7 inch brushes and rollers, because we'll never experience another catastrophic event like that overspray was there. So a life lesson. My next life lesson is a little bit more embarrassing. In 1990, I was at IAPA, displayed at IAPA, and Mr. Albert of Coney Island, New York, approached my booth, introduced himself to me, and said he wanted to see what it would take to paint the Cyclone. Now you can imagine, for any of us that know in the industry, I mean, the Cyclone, the granddaddy of them all, and I'm like, "Are you kidding? I would absolutely love to." I had never been to New York before, but I was excited, set a date with Mr. Albert to go there. I flew to New York, first time ever, landed, and they said, "We'll have someone pick you up." This is where the Kentucky part comes in. So someone picks me up, I walk out, it's just like you see, someone's holding my name, I'm feeling kind of proud of myself. I get in the car, takes me out to the park, and I spend the day comparing that to, at that time I think we had done 5 other wood coasters, similar structures, but this is the Cyclone, I mean, whatever it takes. So I'm working on it, I got this thing together, and I'm gonna go back to my hotel, and their driver, Mr. Albert said, "Well, let me have our driver take you over to the hotel." And I was like, "No, I'll just take a cab." He said, "No, you don't want to take a cab, trust me. From Brooklyn to Manhattan, you don't want to take a cab." So I get in the car with the gentleman who was family also, and as we drove closer, I just didn't think about this, being a hillbilly. I had booked a room at the Ritz-Carlton in Manhattan, New York, and in hindsight, you look at it, you think about those impressions people have on people, and I was actually wearing painter's whites. And so we get close, and I gave the guy the address, and we came around the corner, and the driver literally turned to me and said, let me get this right. We're going to hire a painter from Kentucky, and you're staying at the Ritz-Carlton in Manhattan? I said, well, yeah, there's a story to it. It's a long story. Drop me off. I tried forever to reach the Albert family and never got a return phone call. It really made an impression on me as a young person. Now that kind of stuff can slate someone's thinking, and it's what it did. Now, fortunately, 26 years, no one had an opportunity to do it. 26 years later, when Zimprella took over and Valario called us, and we got to go up and meet with him, and we were able to paint the Cyclone. I'm happy to say in 1990 we had the privilege of completing that most iconic project. So that's 8 years ago? No, 7. I'm sorry, that was 2016. So we got 8 years, 9 years. We're starting to think about if they follow the route of the Canfield family in Santa Cruz, hopefully it's coming up around the corner again for us to come back up to Coney Island. I'll share with you a few other challenges on projects. Some of these pictures I'm sure you friends have seen from our posting or from the Amusement Today or from ITPS posting, but sometimes the backstory is kind of interesting. This was the Twister 2 out of Neelix Gardens, and as many of you know, that was John Pierce's final designed roller coaster. And so I had met him a few years earlier, worked with him on a project, so he called us out. We gave him the price to paint the ride installed because that's what I knew, that's the math I knew. But he had something different. He didn't want to do that. He wanted this to last a long time, so he wanted it painted on the ground first and then erected and put the finish coat on it. So I thought it was a pretty simple undertaking, but when you look at that wood and you think about it up there, there's a method to our madness there. But when you see semi trucks lined up in a parking lot and they're just offloading stacks and stacks and stacks of wood, and you have to tag it, you have to know how you took it down, you have to paint it 4 times and turn it over each time, let it dry, restack it. It was a huge, huge undertaking, but at the end of the day, it was a successful project for us as well. Another challenge, unexpected challenge. This is the Screen Machine down in Atlanta. As many of you might know, that park tends to flood because they're by a creek. This was during the spring, big spring flood, and the flood kept coming and kept coming. And we had a deadline to meet, so literally the guys called the office and said, we're having a challenge with our time and our hours because we literally have to get in a boat and row out to the coaster each morning to get our day started. The nighttime projects. I think it'd be nice to share with you, friends, because of your time in the parks and think about how does some of this stuff get done. For all the parks that are open year-round, almost all of them, so we got, that's Busch, Universal, Knott's, Magic Mountain, a lot of other parks are doing the year-round opening, and we know that they don't want the rides down, you don't want the rides down. And I can tell you, they won't take a ride down so that we can make it look better. They'll take a ride down when they have to, when there's a mechanical issue or whatever. So a lot of thought, time, extensive safety measures goes into us painting the projects at nighttime. Not to mention, what was logical, paint and moisture don't work. So when we go into paint a coaster at night, it's a challenge because we think about dew factors and water that comes in and rain that comes in and all those different factors. But a lot of the coasters you see that are completed on parks that open year-round, we're able to do those at nighttime. This was just recently, I think you may have realized that's Mako down at SeaWorld. SeaWorld, like any other park, doesn't like to shut a ride down, but they had a mechanical issue. They were waiting for a part, and they said, now that's a project that size is a 10-week project for our crew. And keeping in mind, we can't just hire people and let them go. We have people that have come up through the company all these years, so it's a lot of highly skilled men, as we'll see in some of the pictures coming up. But they said, we've got 5 weeks to do it, and we don't want it done at night. So we doubled our teams up. We worked 20 hours a day, 2 different shifts, and 1 day short of 5 weeks, we were able to complete the Mako project this past year. Other little surprises, not a surprise, but Thunderbolt up in New England, as well as other coasters we've done in the past. Those old coasters, often have lead-based paint put on them. So that has been painted by us 3 times, and it stops all our normal process. We go into all the hazardous waste materials and containment and all the safety factors to do that. And but ironically, after you've done it so many times, you're taking so much paint off each time we do it, it eventually gets around to where there's simply none of the old paint left on there. So that happens from time to time as well. Accelerator at Knott's, that's a couple years ago. It's kind of cool. You see the picture on the left of the guys coming down it. And when I see this, every time I think to remind in these conversations, that's 10 years before we did that project, we put samples on there for them. That's not unusual. We put the samples on so they can look at the colors and make sure design likes them and see how the colors are going to perform in the different elements or whatever. But Accelerator gave us an unusual challenge, and it's right there on the corner of Western and La Palmer Street in LA. So although the park was able to quarantine people the guests away from where we were working at, but when you're 210 feet in the air and a painter drops a paintbrush and there's a highway right below you, there's no exception to safety at all. So everything the guys have, everything they take up, from a water bottle to a paintbrush to a paint bucket, everything has to be tethered to the basket. So if they happen to have a slip up, it's not a tragic incident that we have. I threw the shot, there's another shot of the guys. That's the old Vortex, which is no longer there. And I thought it was kind of cool to give you a shot of what the guys do. So it's basically a steel cage, steel basket, and there's a cable that goes to it. They zip up and zip down. Very, very time consuming, but it's the way to get it done when you can't access a structure. It's the best way to get to it. And our guys have just mastered that, at being very efficient with getting the coasters done that way. But now I want to talk about personal sacrifice for me. The things you do for your company to make it better, kind of as any of you have your own business would think about. And this was one of the biggest sacrifices I've ever made for our company. Back in, see if I got my year right, 2019, got a call from S&S. Said, we have a project for you coming up. And we've worked with them. We love working with those folks. And they started describing the project, and it's right up our alley. And then they said, it's at Kennywood. We love the people at Kennywood. We're happy, we're excited. And of course, everything's on the QT about what it's going to be, but we agreed to it. And unfortunately, as I mentioned before, I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky, greater Cincinnati, and anybody that knows me knows that I am a diehard bleed for the Cincinnati Bengals. I had to make a sacrifice for the company, and we did it. Everyone, my friends, know how I felt about it. We laughed about it. I promised the folks at Kennywood while we laughed about it that I would never post that. So you're seeing something that's never been posted. And people look out for me. My friend Melissa's here with me tonight. She made sure we tagged that baby. Yeah, we had to take it off, but it was fun while it lasted. Retheming of coasters is the most exciting thing for myself, for our team. Whenever there's a total retheming, it's exciting to see the big drastic color change. I'm sure you'll agree. I'll just kind of zip through some of the cool pictures. And of course, that's New England when it was first Superman, and then we painted it to Bizarro, and then a few years later, it went back to Superman. So those theming changes happen for reasons I don't always understand. It's a lot to do with the way the parks, whatever agreements they have with their sponsors, but that is a pretty exciting project for us. My favorite, wow, if you haven't been there, isn't that awesome? That was the first drastic, wow project that we ever did, to take X, turn it to X2. That's 17 years ago that we did that. Dang it, you go there, it still looks good. It really does. Kings Island Racer, home park. Anticipation built. We knew something was going to happen. We knew the 50th was coming up, and they kept replacing wood, and it kept looking uglier and uglier, and I just kept waiting for them to finally say, okay, we're going to do it. So sure enough, for the 50th, Kings Island refinished it, and we went back to the old traditional colors, which was awesome, and with the coasters going back and forward, and got the old racer theme back. I thought this would be a cool picture to share with you, friends. That's Sky Rush over at Hershey Park, and they're a nice client. We do work for them. I've done most all their work, and they called one day. They wanted to get this project done, and I got over and we got looking at it real closely. I'm like, you know what? That is an algae, because that's the coaster that goes over top of the lake. It's an algae. I'm not a chemist. I don't understand how that works, but we got a chemist involved to help us make up an algae side that we could clean the coaster and not worry about the algae side going into the lake and killing the fish and so on. So for about a third of the price, because that coaster paint job was only a few years old, we were able to make some efficiencies, and we just cleaned the Sky Rush only without it being painted, and you can see the nice finish that left them too. So that is an option as well. Man, close second to X. Woo. Isn't that spectacular? Ironically, both at the same park, and I just shout out to Six Flags Design when they make those big changes. That's another one, 9 years of every year it being on the radar, being on the table to see if we were going to get it or not. They made the commitment to us, but 9 years when we went from the original samples to what they did, and hands down, our most challenging project in the 42 years of the company was doing Tatsu, because of the terrain, the spider work, and all that stuff. Very, very slow process, but at the end of the day, I think they had a phenomenal color scheme and finished job there. There we go, top thrill. Woo. We had the privilege of painting Top Thrill 10 years ago when the first time it got repainted. We got that project, and it was exciting. It went flawlessly for us, so obviously they put us in the A position when Cedar Fair was going to do the transformation to Top Thrill 2. I think that's a really cool shot, because you can get a perspective, the size of those columns as you go up. Now that's 400 feet in the air, and as one of my guys says all the time, this is what my office view is all day long. I don't know how they do it. I'll go up on top of the coaster on the platforms with white knuckled on the rail, but those guys get out there, and of course safety is of utmost importance. But you can kind of see that guy in the middle, the big one. Look at the size of him to the size of that column, and the skill set that he has when it comes time to paint the upside of that column, and it's all safety done with double harness and so on, but he literally has to get that basket as close as he can to the steel and climb up and reach around to make it work. So really just phenomenal skill level that those guys that work with us have. Of course, there's one more of the before and after of it, and I know we're all really looking forward. Did anybody get a chance to ride it in the short time? Man, I wish I was you. So that was awesome. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to that being open for a long time when they get through the kinks worked out here. All right, let's see here. Package, let's see, is that the right one? Oh, Phantom. I'm assuming most people in this room know, but general public maybe not realize as much as how cool it was that Kennywood's marketing folks put the color out. Remember that? They let you pick the color, and they threw 2 or 3 different colors out. I voted. 70,000 people voted on that color. And as it turned out, they went with the purple and the black. And when it was all said and done, they got grief also, because, as you know, just right up the road is the Baltimore Ravens, and their color is purple and black. So their color, their theming came back to haunt them a little bit, but that really a nice color choice when they changed the Phantom project. I put that in there because it was kind of cool. When a park comes to us, and Kennywood was one of the ones that did it, they came and said, we really want to do a capital improvement on the whole park. And those are 4 major projects. We would be thrilled to have one of those. But we had the privilege of, over a 2-year period, they signed an agreement. We discounted as far as we could, and we got the privilege of doing all 4 of those projects over the last couple of years. And boy, does the park look fantastic now. And for those who are able to make it, we'll be at the Golden Tickets will be at Kennywood this coming year. Similar to that, right up the road, we did the same thing with Great America. I didn't bring any pictures of it because you guys were just there yesterday, but the Great America did a similar thing where we did the flight deck, Psycho Mouse, Woodstock, and Drop Tower all over a 2-year period, and they kind of packaged them together. So anytime you folks can plug for us to do a package deal with the parks, you put that in the suggestion box all you want. I'm so proud to show this picture. I have been calling on the folks down at Dollywood. That's a local park. It's 4 hours from home. And I've been calling on them for 15 years. We've never got a project. The good news is no one else got the project either. It's not neglect. If you've been to the park, that beautiful park, the setting, they've done it so perfectly. The theming back in the mountains and the evergreen, the trees, and the way it sets back in there, they get away with the coasters being hidden from the sun. The colors, when they do fade and knock down a little bit, they look okay, they look rustic. So Dollywood has done a great job at designing their coasters and the theming. And fortunately for us, when they built Fire Chaser, there's no trees around. So I think it was 8 years it sat there, and finally the color died down enough, and we had the privilege of painting that one this past spring. And boy, the folks there were just great to work with, as they are as a park. They are in their maintenance and their ownership as well. And so we're anticipating there may be some more projects coming up with Dollywood here in the near future. That's an old picture. As Melissa and I were putting this together, I was just flipping through pictures and hundreds of pictures of coasters, and this just caught my eye, and it just is one of them. Rob Cole, the guy on the shoulders, Rob's been working for us for 25 years. He started when he was 16 years old, and that is him today. That's how he hustles. And so I was over on the tower of the project trying to get a picture of the coaster because it was the day we finished. The lifts had been pulled off, the equipment was gone, and Rob, taking initiative, seen a spot that we missed, called his buddy over, climbed up his back, and got the spot done. I took the picture, and it tells a really wonderful story about hard, dedicated people that work with us. And no, I wouldn't post it for OSHA. It's really not that bad. But that's Rob Cole, still just a rock star employee. Okay, getting towards the end here. Velocicoaster. I think it's really important to share this with you because if you don't know, as being guests of the parks, almost all the coasters come in, and you think about it, you'll see the pictures when they're laid down there, when they bring them in, they come in, and then sometimes they get nicked up a lot, and sometimes they get nicked up a little, but either way, we solicit and we try to sell, we successfully sell touch-up packages to the park. But here's the interesting thing, when they really get hit hard as Velocicoaster did, don't know the reason, but when we go in to do a touch-up, we give them a formula, here's what it's going to cost to touch your coaster up before it's ever brought there. But when we get there and it's this bad, then we sit down with ownership and say, can we make a suggestion, help you make a really efficient decision? Because if you look at your coasters now in some of the parks, especially the new steel coasters with the big columns, and you see little spots everywhere, the leopard spots, that's with good intentions. That's when a coaster didn't need touched up that much and they just hit those spots. That could be the exact gallon of paint that came with the coaster. But what happens is the coasters come across the ocean. They sit here for sometimes months and sometimes years before they get around to the erecting part. They erect them, and the paint that goes on there isn't going to fade the same rate as what we put on. So we encourage the park, when it really is a lot of touch-up, to go ahead and let us work it out to just face the coasters off. So you'll notice as you look at new coasters now, the ones that you'll see the spots or the not spots, and that's not that the parks are doing it right or wrong. They having a brand new coaster, they should just be able to touch it up, but sometimes it goes a little bit further than that. There goes Maury's Pier, little seaside coaster. Our first project to do with the Maury family was that nor'easter there. It was white. If you haven't seen it, it's really cool. They did a gradual color scheme, 7 different colors, from dark to light to the ocean. But between us, 500 people, that's not the reason I go to Maury's Pier. At the end of the pier, Sam's Pizza. And the Maury's know I feel that way. When I get a call, I'm like, I'm coming out because I want a slice of Sam's Pizza. The best pizza in the world, and that's it. Obviously, Maury's are great folks, and we enjoy working for them too. But now I'm getting back to my conclusion. I'm going to go to my conclusion to share with you my love for the parks and for the industry, and to sit and talk to friends, and they'll ask you questions similar as they did just to Tom and Charles about your favorite this, your favorite that. And for years, it's not coincidence that I have jumped at the opportunity to come here and speak with you folks at Santa Cruz Beach and Boardwalk, because for years, my friends have asked me, we have done work at 211 amusement parks. We've painted 240 coasters, 4 different continents. And if you say, what's your favorite amusement park, Chris Baynum? Hands down, I'm not embarrassed to say it, Santa Cruz Beach and Boardwalk. That's it. If it's your first time here, you're kind of getting a taste of it already. You'll be back. It is special. It's Americana, and we do a lot of the seaside parks everywhere else. There's just something special about here. My first time here, and the first time the Canfield family trusted us to do a project for them was in the year 2000, so 24 years ago. We've been a service provider for them. They've entrusted us 3 times to paint the Giant Dipper. What a privilege that is, and a bunch of their other rides as well. And I don't know if they know how I feel, but outside of the friendship, this place is it. So thank you. I rambled and forgot to show you the picture. So there's the, the undertow, and of course a great shot of our folks. And I love that picture on the left of all that was the crew. The same crew, not with a few exceptions, but we were talking about this last night. The same crew that painted it 24 years ago is still here and was able to paint it for us this last year. So it shows a lot about our guys and their efforts and diligence. I'll conclude with this. I have a goal in life. I'm getting old. I'm stepping back. Walt Bowser, I don't know if some of you know Walt. Walt's stepping up and taking us to a different level with the solutions and all the different things we're doing. I have a goal at my age, and that's to be this cool. True story. That's 10 years ago. That was my first ride on Giant Dipper with Mr. Canfield. Look how cool he is. Arm on the thing. I look cool too, just not as cool as him. So that's thank you again, Acers. Thank you so much for all you do for us, for putting our name out there, for watching out for us, for the accolades, for replying to our posts. Canfield family, Santa Cruz Beach and Boardwalk, thank you so much for the trust and confidence you've put in us.